Hello, everybody. Welcome to our school committee meeting of June 10th, 2020. I will start by reading our vision statement, which states that the Ashland Public Schools cultivates the academic and social emotional growth of each student through a supportive, collaborative, innovative, and challenging environment. Students will develop into self-motivated, resilient, lifelong learners who embrace their role as responsible contributors to a global community. This meeting is being recorded by WACA Cable TV. Our order of business this evening includes our open session call to order, our opening procedures, agenda review and adoption, our student presentations and recognitions, the 2020 retirees, and the Student Advisory Council. We will have time for public comment, and our administrative items this evening include a COVID-19 update, discussion of a school committee statement of support for all students and school families, COVID-19 state funding resolution, superintendent evaluation process, summer school committee retreat and meeting schedule, assistant superintendent's report, warrant approvals, and the consent actions include approval of the minutes of May 27th, 2020, acceptance of gifts and donations if there are any, committee reports of activities, if any, member updates, action items, and then we will adjourn. So I will take a roll call of the school committee members, and then I will ask all of you if you're okay with this order of business tonight. So Mark Terry.
Yes. Present and yes.
Thank you. Paul Kendall.
Yes.
Kathy Bates.
Here, yes.
And Aaron Williams, are you out there anywhere this evening? No, Aaron, this evening. Okay. I am also going to, before I call the first item, I'm just going to read our rules of participation for Zoom meetings. And pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are utilizing the Zoom conferencing platform to conduct our meeting, and all board committee members are participating remotely. The goal is to maintain the spirit of the open meeting law, providing access and transparency to all proceedings. When appropriate, efforts will be made to allow for public participation through the Zoom platform. Your patience with any technical difficulties is appreciated as we conduct meetings in this new way. So I will start by, it looks like first up are the student presentations and recognitions with the 2020 retirees. So
Correct.
First.
Well, the 2020 retirees will go first, and then we'll do the Student Advisory Council after, Laurie. So
Okay.
if you'd like to start with that.
Sure, but are we going to go in an order of which principals are going to speak first?
If you want, it's up to you.
Okay, well, why don't do we have every school represented here?
No, we have Warren, everyone except Pitaway.
Okay, why don't we start with Warren? Why don't we go that way this time?
Thank you very much. It's an honor to really speak about these two ladies tonight, Donna DeBritz and Pat Kasevich. Although I've only been fortunate enough to work with them for the last 4 years, their history in the town of Ashland has been remarkable. Donna DeBritz began with the Ashland Public School 20 years ago. In the year 2000, she began by supporting children in the dining room. By 2005, she transitioned into kindergarten and began working as a kindergarten ESP. Over the last 15 years, she's just been making that difference of being in the lives of our kindergarten children each and every day. The last 4 years, I've watched her commitment to the students of Room 7, our school, and just seeing her as a consistent and constant learner of trying to better herself to better support children. It's been a pleasure to work alongside her for these last 4 years.
Thank you. And Donna, I have your plate with me.
Thank you.
It says Donna DeBritz, 15 years devoted service to the Ashland Public Schools, and it's got the date June 18th, 2020 on it. We appreciate you. One of the casualties of COVID is I can't be there to shake your hand. Or, some people I throw myself on you and give you a hug. But we congratulate you. We thank you for your many years of service, and we will find a way to get your special plate.
Thank you.
Eventually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Donna. Thank you.
Great work, Donna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also Pat Kasevich. Again, I've had the honor of working alongside Pat now for these last 4 years. Pat began working with the children of Ashland as a literacy teaching assistant. And I'm just so excited to see how she transitioned into the role of an ESP in the dual certification program. Having Pat's experience as a teacher herself and having all the knowledge base of teachers and the experience that she had from being her own classroom teacher, supporting classroom teachers working with our students has been remarkable. Not just students with IEPs, but all children in the classroom. Her knowledge base of instruction, of best practice for the students has really been a game changer for our classrooms and what she has been able to do in the rooms throughout these years. From my time, I've watched her work closely with Chrissy Clifford and now with Shannon McKay. And it's just the love and care that she has for the children each and every day through her work with EDP as well. And just being that person to make sure that the safety and well-being of our children is always in the forefront. Watching her walk every child out to the bus and make sure that every child is accountable for every single day. It's truly remarkable to see everything that she has accomplished, the impact that she's had in our school and our classroom. We are going to greatly miss her.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Pat. You also get a plate thanking you for your 17 years of devoted service to the Ashland Public Schools. So we appreciate you, and it's because of you guys that in my family, the Warren School is known as the happy place. And we appreciate that all you've done, and as well as your coworkers, and we wish you luck on your next journey in your life. Thank you. All right, Mike, are you next?
I guess so.
Yeah.
So first of all, I would like to congratulate Donna and Pat as well. I had the pleasure of working with them for 4 years. So best of luck to you. Enjoy retirement. I have the pleasure tonight to talk about Michelle Adopoulos. Although we have not worked together very long, does not take very long to learn about and appreciate the type of educator that Michelle is. She is a trusted colleague for all of the teachers at Mendez. She's an advocate for children. She's a tremendous leader, and she was someone that I appreciated so very much as a voice. Anytime we wanted to talk about a new initiative or to learn about what was best for our students, you would always count on Michelle to listen and to advise and to make a decision that was in the best interest of all of our children. Michelle's an Ashland High School alum, and she moved away to Rhode Island, and in 1995 decided to come back because she wanted to make sure her own children were able to experience the Ashland Public Schools. And it was great that she came back because she began as a substitute teacher in 1999, and then moved to be an ESP, was involved in the looping program until she finally found her home as a teacher in the multi-grade neighborhood program starting in 2006, where she remained until she retired. She's greatly missed by all of her colleagues and her children, her students. And I would be remiss if I did not talk about everything on a waffle. When I think about Michelle, I think about probably the memories that many students have of her creativity and ingenuity with education, but her everything on a waffle unit that ended with students creating the recipes from the book and having a wonderful party that celebrated exactly what elementary education is supposed to be about. So thank you, Michelle, for a tremendous career and all you've done for the children of Ashland.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. A.
Thank you.
Michelle, you also are rewarded for your 17 years of service. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything you did to build that wonderful program and work with our kids, including my own. So I wish you a happy retirement or next phase of life, whatever it is you're doing next. And on behalf of the entire school committee, we appreciate everything you've done for Ashland.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mrs. Tosti,
Yes.
I would just like you to recognize the fact that Erin Williams has joined us. So,
Erin Williams.
I just,
Hello. I don't see you, but I'm so happy that you're here.
so.
Hello, and I would just like to say to Mrs. Adopoulos, thank you for being one of Chase's favorite teachers at Mendez, if not maybe the favorite, and he misses you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next up, let's see, do we have anybody from the middle school?
We do.
Okay,
do.
Dave?
Yes, thank you, Laurie. Congratulations to everyone tonight. I'm here to talk about Mary Lee Mullen is retiring. I've worked with Mary Lee for the last 7 years at the middle school. Mary Lee is retiring after over 30 years working in education. We're going to miss her. I think she is the most experienced teacher in the department. I know the department especially will miss her, not only because of all of her efforts with the kids and what she does in the classroom, which she continually evolves, but also just her knowledge of the Spanish language and how much they rely on her. And I rely on her, not only for what's happening in the classroom, but if we need a family that comes in and something happens and we need somebody to translate, she's amazing. So not only do we get response from her, from the students in her class, it's from students and families that aren't in her class, where she was always the first to pitch in and lend a helping hand to those families who needed some extra support. So I greatly appreciate that. In the department, again, missed because I think they looked to her for her background, for her experience. In meetings, Mary Lee was the first, I think, to speak up, the first to ask those questions, the first to compliment others, to thank other staff for helping her. And I know how much she appreciated to collaborate with others. It was always fun working with her. And I know many of the staff feel the same way. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I've witnessed it. So I know she's very well thought of. I know for retirement, she's looking forward to retirement, and she's going to continue to do translating, which she should be doing because she's amazing at it. But I know she's also looking forward to spending time with her family and her grandchildren. I believe number 7 of grandchild is on the way in the fall, and she's really looking forward to retirement and spending time and being closer to her family. So I certainly want to thank her for her many years and all she's done for the staff and for the students at the middle school. And we wish her the very best for her retirement.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Gracias.
You get
Gracias.
to Mary Lee.
Dankeschön.
23 years of devoted service, and we appreciate you giving so many years of your career, and it sounds like your colleagues and your principal have wonderful things to say about you and that you'll be missed. And
Thank
if you
you.
have 7 grandchildren, it sounds like you're going to be pretty busy. So we wish you all the best on behalf of the school committee and moving forward.
Thank
A
you.
wonderful life. Thank you.
Gracias por tu servicio y sus preguntas cada lunes.
Gracias porque siempre tengo curiosidad.
Gracias.
I understood some of that.
Excelente.
Mary Lee every Monday is the one who always asks every question at the faculty meetings I host. So I just wanted to thank her for it.
Questions are good. Preguntas.
Pregunta. Excelente. Thank you.
I almost got McKenna to say something and congratulate you, but maybe she'll send you a note. She'll definitely miss you.
Is she camera shy? Thank you very much. And then Kelly. Whoops, I'm smacking the plates here.
Congratulations again to everybody. I have the pleasure of speaking about Brian Garrigan. Brian is retiring as a counselor for Ashland High School, where he's been for the past 13 years, and it has been an immense pleasure to work with him for all 13 of those years. He served as the department head for the first 11 years with us, and then decided to step down 2 years ago to spend his last 2 years really doing what he's passionate about, which is working with kids and supporting them. Prior to coming to us, Brian had retired from Vermont, where he spent 25 years counseling. I can honestly say, Brian, you are the most passionate counselor I have ever worked with, and your commitment to students shines through in everything you did. Brian never backed down from me, especially when he felt it was the best course of action for a student. And I know from many conversations with families how much they appreciate your tireless efforts. One email from a parent that stood out to me this year, and I don't even remember what it was. It was a one line: "We love Mr. Garrigan." Besides counseling students, Mr. G, as many called him, served as the advisor for SAD, and for many years he was an active member of Decisions at Every Turn. Brian cares really deeply about educating students about making healthy choices and the whole child. As a colleague, he made us laugh with his stories of his many counseling experiences and his times in Vermont, and sometimes made us cry when he was challenging us, sometimes with that same experience. I would say personally, Brian, you helped me to grow and made me better at what I do, and I appreciate it so much. 38 years is an incredible career. You are going to be missed so much. I am so proud to call you a colleague and a friend, and so excited for you in what is going to be a very exciting next chapter. You will be missed.
And Brian, you get one too. I feel like a game show hostess. 13 years of devoted service, and certainly with 4 of my kids going through the high school, I know what a presence you were there for kids and staff and all the good you did. And I have to personally thank you for putting up with me for a while, which was not really easy back then. And but you helped me and my family a lot, and so I'm going to personally thank you for that. But I know that that my experience was probably very similar to many others, and that those are the kinds of things that families don't forget. So I wish you all the best. I thank you for everything that you did on behalf of not just my family, but for everybody's family, and for your colleagues. It sounds like you will be missed, and I wish you all the best with your next phase.
Thank you all. Thank you.
A man of few words.
Unusual.
Is this the Brian Garrigan that I know?
Tonight it is.
No administrative edict. I'm gonna miss that. So
No.
I could give you one now, but we'll move on. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, so we have the Student Advisory Council's up next. And I don't know who's going to speak. Is that going to be you, Rachel, or are there others who want to jump in?
There are others too, if they want to go first, and then I can follow.
You want to be last?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with what the others have to say.
Hi, everyone. My name's Helen. Just to reintroduce myself, it's been a while since I've been at one of these meetings and since the Student Advisory Council has gotten to be here. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to all the teachers that are retiring. I've had many of them, Miss Mullen, Mr. Garrigan. Really congratulations and thank you for being such amazing teachers. Second of all, I would like to talk a little bit about the Ashland High School's online learning experience and how that's been going. March really took us by storm, the coronavirus pandemic. It was really a learning curve for us. As of now, our GPAs are frozen as of the second term, and we are doing a pass-fail system for term 3 and term 4. So our GPAs consist of our first 3 terms and the midterm exams. All our teachers have contacted us via email, Google Classroom, Zoom, or one online database or another, and have gotten to give us assignments and assessments to wrap up this year. Our school year wraps up next week. The end of next week, we'll complete our school year. We also did complete our AP exams. Many of us high schoolers had AP exams a couple weeks ago, and those were definitely different this year. They were 45-minute online exams instead of the regular 3-hour in-class exams, and this year that they were open notes, which was different. We completed those and we're very excited, and we're hoping to get our results in the next couple of weeks. That's all I have to say. I would like to pass it on to Caroline.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about what has been going on at the high school, mainly the election processes that have been going on. Every class has had their elections, and the results are in for like class president, vice president, and so on. So that's really exciting. There's also been a lot of like club and also the new board for School Committee Advisory Council got chosen, which I'm happy to say I will be back again next year. And clubs like NHS, Student Council, things like that. And then also sports have been starting to, captains have been applying, and speeches have definitely been different. We've had to do videos that we send in and write paragraphs and everything. And of course, all the voting is online instead of in person. But yeah, it's been good.
Thank you, Caroline. Did you say, Caroline, whether you guys, did you elect a student for the school committee representative?
We haven't yet. I know that usually we get the board all set up and then we talk with Ms. St. Kerr, and somebody is either we vote on it, or if someone wants to jump and do it, then we give it to that person. But yeah, not yet. We don't know yet.
Excellent. Thank you. Who's next?
Hi, I'm Josie Kaufman.
Hi, Josie.
First, I want to say thank you to my guidance counselor, Mr. Garrigan, and to Miss Mullen. But today I'm just going to talk about some of the stuff that's been going on for seniors as part of the graduation process. So this past Sunday, we had our senior parade. So instead of all the seniors taking buses to all the schools and walking around in their caps and gowns this year, we had a car parade to take them through the parking lots. So that was really fun to see. Everybody kind of decorated their cars and stood out the sunroofs, which would be terrifying if it was me because I would have fallen out. But it seemed like lots of fun and was really great to watch. We also had a bunch of signs in the center of town with everybody's pictures to congratulate them. And then we also, instead of the typical decision day, everybody wears their college t-shirts to school, we had a new Instagram made up to recognize everybody for their plans for next year, whether that's college or careers or anything else. So yeah.
Thanks, Josie. Who's next?
And then all I kind of wanted to add on to that was that the parade was awesome. It was such a great way to celebrate the seniors. I had so much fun participating. It was so nice to see such a big turnout too. So it was great.
So Rachel, I was at the parade too. I thought it was awesome. It was just so great. Like, why are we not doing this every day? So fabulous. But I wanted to take this time on behalf of the school committee to tell you how much we have appreciated your voice on this committee. And we always love the student voice on this committee. And we've been so lucky to have some really great students on our, and this is my 10th year, and I really enjoy everybody that I've met. But in this year, you particularly, from the beginning, were not hesitant to speak out and speak honestly and truthfully and with a lot of insight. And I was going to say this on my own behalf, but I think you couldn't be in the room, my colleagues, as well as Mr. Adams and Dr. Vera, without recognizing that I think you've said some things along the way that made us think differently or more deeper about a situation. And it's just that you're a perfect example of what the student voice on the school committee should be, and how important it is, that voice. And you were such a great example of that. And I want to thank you for teaching me some things and my colleagues. And I know that you will just go on and continue to do amazing things. You are engaging and bright and fabulous. And we really appreciate everything that you contributed this year. I hate, this time of the year, because of course I wish that you could stay forever. But, it's time for the next step, and it's also going to be fabulous. And I have something for you as well. It's not a plate, it's a globe, and it's got your name on it, and it's got Rachel Hopkins, Ashland School Committee representative. And if I were there in person and it wasn't COVID, I would be giving you a huge hug. So, take that sentiment with you on behalf of all of us, and please stay in touch.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful opportunity to be able to be part of this. It has helped me grow so much and learn so much about the town. It was truly wonderful.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you,
I
Rachel.
second everything Laurie said, and not just because we know and love you outside of school committee, but you literally have been the most impressive member that I've seen. And I'm sad that we haven't had these last few months together in person before you go away to Villanova. But just know you're going to take the world by the horns, and you're going to do amazing things. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
I know it's easy to say what everyone else said, but Rach, I think when I think back on my 6 years, the first student representative to come to a summer retreat to spend time with us in the summer, that's how you kicked off your participation. The insight you gave us into the multi-age neighborhood programming and your experiences all the way through, I think echoes what Mrs. Tosti was saying, was that it really made us think more deeply into the things that we're doing and how we're trying to do what's best for kids every single day. And that insight is invaluable to us, and I will cherish it forever. So thank you.
Thank you.
You go, girl. Okay. So,
And y'all can leave if you want.
yeah.
I know Rachel has something going on anyway later, so.
I know it's so awkward to know like when to leave a Zoom meeting. You like push a button and you disappear. But you're excused.
All the students,
well,
unless you want to stay. See ya.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Next, I'm going to take a minute to see if there are any members of the public watching that want to make a comment. There are two screens, I'm not seeing everybody. So if you are somebody who wants to make public comment, if you could unmute yourself and let me hear you, I will give you some time for that. Anybody? Okay, so seeing none, we'll move on to the COVID update from Mr. Adams.
Thank you. I always forget how many times we've had conversations about COVID and what you know and what you don't know, because all the days and weeks are running obviously together. So last week, I believe, so I haven't reported this out in this forum, but I've had other forums. We did have a meeting with the Commissioner of Education, and he laid out a plan for us as we move forward, and we will be getting information, hopefully, he said between June 15th and 18th, with regard to the reopening of schools in the fall. There's been guidance that has come through his office in the past week, however, about the PPE equipment, supplies that we're going to need to look at purchasing for the school year, the upcoming school year. Also some guidance as it relates to summer programming, as well as opening the buildings potentially in the summer for some in-person learning. So what I've taken out of it is we still don't know anything. We're still waiting for directives, and he's been clear. However, this is going to be a process where 80 to 90% of the districts across the Commonwealth will have the same learning opportunities. So it's probably going to be a hybrid model to start with, meaning some in-person and some remote learning. What that looks like, whether it's a week on, a week off, or 3 days, 2 days, 2 days, 3 days, we're not sure yet, and we're hoping to get that guidance. I would say last week I held 3 webinars within the community where they could pose questions, and it was very well attended. I think a number of you attended some of the webinars as well, where folks sent questions ahead of time and I responded to them, and then throughout the webinar I was able to also answer questions that they had in those sessions. We've posted all of those. Thank you to WACA for not only streaming it live, but taping it. So those are on the Ashland Public Schools website, all 3 of them, should anyone be interested in going and listening and watching the webinars. I would also like to comment and say thank you to Claudia Bennett. I called her, I think, or sent her a text this morning early and said, hey, can you help me with a survey? I've got some information I want to get out to the community and to our staff with regard to things such as, do you anticipate coming back to school as students in the fall, whether it's in person or are you going to hold your children out remotely? We're just trying to get an understanding of what we're looking at in addition to transportation. So there are certainly some concerns that came through loud and clear in the webinars that families are hesitant to send their kids back, but we have to get a better understanding of how many kids that means and how many educators that means where there's concern. We have certainly a number of educators who have underlying conditions, and we've got to be thoughtful of their health. And those are things that we're looking at. I believe those, and you can shake your head, Claudia, I believe we should be ready by Friday to send those out to our families through our Connect Ed portal, not through the MailChimp, because the MailChimp goes to, which is my normal Friday, goes to everybody in numerous listservs, and also community members can sign up, whereas the Connect Ed, the Blackboard, will have the link that we can actually dictate who that goes to in terms of grade levels, because we don't need to send it to the seniors. They're not going to be back next year. We hope they'll be back in August, but not next year. So what we want to make sure is that we capture those families, and then I know Mr. Regan and the incoming Warren Kindergarten, we have their email addresses, and we'll want to send the link specifically to them as well. So we really want to capture the folks who are going to be in our schools in terms of enrolled in our schools, not necessarily physically in our schools. We have a call on Friday with the commissioner again, where we hope to get a little bit more information as he'll be releasing. Like I said, he's supposed to release stuff next week. He said between the 15th and the 18th. But what I have learned is that he does typically release information at 8 o'clock on a Friday night. And that is a struggle for many of us. So I would not anticipate anything throughout the week. So that is the reopening task force. We have worked for 4 weeks. The group has done phenomenal work identifying questions, answering questions, categorizing questions, and now I'm starting to draft an actual document that can be used by building principals as a framework, so they can start thinking about their own buildings, and the building principals are creating their task force within the building. So it's an exciting opportunity. I wish I could say we would have all of this work done in a swift and quick manner, but we're not. It's going to take us through the middle of July at the earliest to have a plan in place. And what the commissioner has said is we need to have some flexibility for all of us, because if we get a second wave, or if the numbers continue to decrease and there's not a lot of concern in the fall, what does that look like? It could change dramatically. So whatever plans we're focusing on now could quickly change come August 1st. So we've just got to be thoughtful about that. So that's the COVID-19 update.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, Jim, do you have that document to share on the screen?
Sure.
About the proposed statement of support from the school committee. And while you're getting that ready, I will just say that this is a draft statement, because obviously cannot draft something from the entire committee before finding out, number one, whether that's a choice that the committee wants to make. And number two, this is how the committee works on a statement together in an open meeting. So this is a draft, and I'm looking for your input.
Can you see it, Laurie?
I can see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Can everybody else see it? And did all members get a chance? I forwarded it FYI to everybody, so you had a chance to digest it before being asked to comment. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to do that, and I'm looking for feedback when you're ready. I mean, I don't know if you want me to read it out loud, or if you want to, get to a final place and then we can read it out loud. What are y'all thinking?
I don't know that it's necessary to read it out loud. Well, it does make sense to me that for the purposes of WACA picking up on what it says, at least to allow to scroll what you're showing, or Jim, if you can do this, to scroll on the screen so people could read the totality of what we're talking about, whether it's the 20-something people on the call now or for later. I don't know that it has to be read verbally though.
Be like Star Wars, and it'll go slowly.
Yeah, if you can pull it back and fade it out into the blackness of the stars and all. But anyway, I mean, Laurie, I have read it. I feel quite comfortable with what it says. You know, you always struggle with these things to think about, are you saying too much? Are you saying everything you want to say? You know, I think what it does is it expresses an opinion about what's happened, but it also, I think more importantly, talks about us as a school district, how we are going to be a part of the solution. And I, you know, I think most of this is stuff that we talk about all the time anyway. I think, but it's framed in a way about recommitting ourselves to these goals and to be more mindful of them. And I think that's an appropriate balance under the circumstances.
Who else?
Laurie, it's Erin. So my feedback is one that we should include 3 names instead of just George Floyd. I think I understand he is the catalyst for most of, I guess, the protests, but I think Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor are just as important and should be recognized in the statement. And then I think something to the effect of how I'll forward you something from work that was sent out. But it was essentially acknowledging the fact that COVID has brought to the surface some of the socioeconomic and health disparities as sort of like reinforcing the proof of racial bias, racial discrimination, and disparities. If we could work something like that in there, I can forward that to you. But the bigger point for me, everything else looks fine. I would just want the 3 names included versus just George.
So I have some thoughts on that, but I'm going to let everybody respond first, since you know, I was involved in the drafting. So I want to hear from everybody, and then I can tell you how I'm thinking about that. Anybody else? Paul, did you have anything you want to share, or Kathy?
Yeah, I want to let Kathy if she has some feedback.
No, I just wanted to thank you for making the statement. I was thinking that we should, as an elected board, as town representatives, school representatives, we should say something. So I'm thankful you put that on there. I'm curious to hear what people think of adding more names. I'm just thinking if we add more names, there's names we're going to not add. There's so many names. So maybe there's a way, if we don't want to add more names, or if we add a few, but I think there's a way of saying, and you could say, and countless others, or something like that, that we have, so that we're not missing somebody, so that we're not leaving somebody out. So if there's a way to wordsmith that, but.
Paul, anything else, Kathy, you wanted to share about it?
No, so I appreciate, Laurie, you putting this together. I think I like it the way you have it. And, I'm not sure about adding names, because it's not, well, like she said, that was the tipping point. That was the catalyst. Probably without such an egregious event, everyone wouldn't be so enraged, unfortunately, right? But it's not about that. And I think it's more about what comes after that, and our what we're saying we pledge to continue to do and do better at, and so I don't think it's as much about the initial pieces, and I think we cover the things that are impacting the minority communities and urban communities more with the socioeconomic equity pieces and things like that. And so I don't want to get lost in the details of trying to hit every single point, but I think thematically it covers, you know, what we can have influence over too, right? So, so I like what you've done. I'd be fine with it as is.
Oh, and Mark gets a lot of credit for that too, by the way. But Aaron, so this is what I'm thinking about the names. I mean, I think it's clear that George Floyd was a tipping point. Certainly his cases, I mean, we all watched it in horror, and it's a murder, and it's and the other ones that you mentioned, I think, are equally egregious. But I mean, how far back do you go? I mean, you could go back to Rodney King, you could go back to 1600. I mean, there have been so many you know, atrocities. And so that's my fear, is that this one name, I think, as the world really, based on the protests and everything, this was the incident, I think, that helped us turn the corner into activism, instead of, it's no longer enough to just say like, I don't tolerate it. It's, at least this is what this means for me, you know. It's not enough to say I don't tolerate it, but this is how we're going to act, and we're going to commit to this, and we're going to recommit to that. So I'm concerned is that, you know, once you start naming names, it's not that those other names don't deserve to be there, but where do you really draw the line? Like, why would we draw it at those three? And where do you stop? So that's really my thinking and my concern about that. I don't know how others feel.
Yeah,
and I think it's kind of what you said, Paul, a little bit, but that was why they didn't appear in the first place. I'm certainly well aware of their cases, and I'm equally horrified by them. But then I would feel about, all right, who else needs to be on here that's not?
Yeah. I tend to agree with you, Laurie. I think the other thing, I really don't want to engage in debate about the incidents themselves. You know, they all have their uniqueness in different circumstances. But I think to me, the bigger, most important part about the statement we're taking is we're taking a stand on the issue. And, you know, the statement to me is just as appropriate if in that first sentence, we just had a period at the end of the word color and didn't have the reference to including the senseless killing of George Floyd. It's just as powerful. And to me, while I think it's fully appropriate to include that phrase, for the reasons you've articulated, I think all three of you, Laurie, Kathy, and Paul, have articulated that this was the thing that really caused people to react and to protest and to stand up. I'm also wary of some of the other issues that are probably a little more complicated, and I don't want to debate that particular thing. But you know, I think if we want to keep this on the most simple component of it, the most obvious component of it, and make sure that the real emphasis is on what are we going to do to try to contribute to a solution, and not focus so much on the specific incidents of the past, because there are too many for us to do a good job covering.
So I can completely get behind that, Mark, and I actually, in that vein, would then prefer if we just didn't have a name and, like you said, ended it after color, and I agree with you that it carries the same amount of weight. My rationale for including them is that each one is a microcosm in of itself. I don't think in the case of Breonna Taylor, there's any complicating factors. Like Mark, you're saying, some of the cases are more complicated. But when you have three back-to-back examples of different forms of racial bias and it resulting in the end of life for a person of color, I think highlighting all three names, because it brings to light, it honors because they were so close as far as the dates that happened, but also the varying types. And the reason why we're also upset about George Floyd is because there's video evidence of it. But the problem is we need to be upset even when there's not video evidence. And so that's my rationale for wanting to include the 3 names, but I understand the committee's sort of stance. So I'd rather, if we're not going to name 3 names, I'd rather do none.
How does everybody feel about that?
I'm fine with that.
If you're asking me what my preference is, I like it as it's written. Do I have, I agree with Mark in that it's powerful regardless of whether we name a particular incident or not. You know, so I'll see what, I'm curious as what Kathy thinks. You know, but like I said, I guess even what Erin started off saying kind of proved my point. She started talking about a particular, and that's really kind of, you know, defocusing on what we're saying. And anytime we're talking about a circumstance or situation and debating whether it should or shouldn't be in here, we're focusing on the wrong sets of sentences, right? Or the wrong places in the sentences. It should be the rest of it that that we're not going to you know, sit back and let the status quo be, and we're going to do what we can where we have influence to try to, you know, have a positive influence on our community and beyond. So, like I said, I'd leave it. I'd personally leave it as it is, but I don't have a strong feeling about removing either.
I like the way it's written. I like that we do reference George Floyd, because to me, I feel that is the tipping point. You know, the Black Lives Matter movement, when was that, 2016, really, when that, and, you know, it seems like now this is a tipping point, that this is a turning point, and I hope it is. I pray that it is, that we're going to continue as a nation and as a global nation, that we're going to do something. So I like that we do leave the name George Floyd, because I do feel like that was the catalyst, or that we'll look back and we'll say that was when things changed. So, but I like it the way it's written. But
And Erin, I can give you just a little bit more background about why it's in there. And again, if the majority felt that the name shouldn't be there, I can totally live with that as well. But it was more not so much his name, but the senseless killing part of it. We wanted to address that there was a murder. And that was the way to do that this isn't just like, you know, the typical, we will not be racist or whatever. It was kind of the alarming nature of what we're talking about here. And that was the thinking was that was the best way to do that. So I hear what you're saying about removing it, but I just wanted you to understand why it was there to begin with. Because if we remove that, then we just put period at the end of color, and we're not talking about killing anymore. And that's fine, because I think what Paul was getting at is, as a committee, that's the lead-in to what we're trying to talk about is what we intend to do about it from our lens, what we can do. And you know, we have some responsibility to our students and our families of students, and that's all we can control. And we tried to zero in on how we might do that, not just for the Black students, but for everybody. We have a little bit more than a 2% African American population in our schools, and we have a lot of other minorities for whom I'm guessing that white privilege is a problem. And it's also a problem for the white people who either don't understand it and need to listen more, or we need to know more about how to work our way out of this problem. So that's why it was there. So I don't know if that changes your mind at all, but at the same time, I mean, I'm more concerned with how we as a body are moving forward than I am about the lead-in to our statement.
I completely agree with that last part, Laurie. More so for me, I guess my feeling is it shouldn't have, and I think most of the people on the committee feel this way, that it shouldn't have taken George. It shouldn't even have taken Trayvon Martin. It shouldn't, you know, we can go way, way back. And to me, I guess, I understand what you're saying about a senseless murder. So with that, I can support including his name and not wanting to change anything. So, you know, you can have a 5-0 vote for that. But just trying to, one, honor those other stories and the ones that came before it, because it should have never gotten to this point.
I absolutely agree with you. And I don't think anybody here would disagree. And I think that's why we're trying to take a look at ourselves and what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, and where we need to learn and where we need to grow, and who we serve, which as school committee members, we do serve all students, and that this is a problem for everybody. And so can you guys hear me? Because I just lost the picture.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I can hear you, Laurie.
All right. Can you see me?
Yep. I can see you.
Okay. I can't see any of you. So somebody else talk for a minute so I can get my screen back too.
I mean, I think we've kind of talked through the point, I think, not to cut off the dialogue at all, but
yeah,
it seems like we're probably at a point of a motion being made, either to accept the statement as drafted or as amended with striking the last clause of the first sentence. And I'm content to support either version.
To you know, approve it as written.
Is that your motion, Paul?
Yeah, I would move that we accept the statement as written.
I'll second.
All in favor? Erin?
Aye.
Paul?
I think you said my name anyway.
Mark?
Aye.
Kathy?
Aye.
Laurie? Aye. Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, thank you.
Thanks, thank you, Laurie.
Thanks for your work on that, Mark.
Thank you both.
Okay.
Laurie, can I just ask a procedural question in terms of how you want to approach the letter being distributed to our community? Do you want me to take this, I have it in the Word form, and distribute it via my email on Friday from the Ashland School Committee, and have it posted on the website? How do you want to approach that? I just need some direction.
Can you do both, Jim?
Absolutely. No, I just wanted to make sure.
I would appreciate that. And that actually also gives me an opportunity to ask all of the school committee members, speaking about websites. And apparently there is a school committee address or a newsletter address. Even though we don't write a newsletter, we don't have a newsletter. When you are a part of the public school system, you have an opportunity to join our newsletter, just like you do opt into the ones in the buildings. And of course, we're not putting out any content there. So I was asked whether or not we want to just delete that email so it's not confusing to families, or whether we want to start using that as a way to put out some of our own content. Yeah, Jim.
I would also, recommendation is, as we get our new website up online come the fall, there might be an opportunity there to actually post something very specific if you want to do a monthly newsletter for school committee as well. So
okay. So, and I'm just asking because I actually heard from Ann Canton again today about, how we wanted to move forward with that. Yeah. It's not on the agenda or anything like that, but since we were talking about how we would get this message out, I mean, it's food for thought, and we can put it on another agenda as to how we want to communicate, but just know that there is a newsletter that folks are subscribing to that we are not utilizing. So if something new is coming out in the fall, then maybe that's the way to go. And I can tell Ann to just put that away, or if we want to work with it until there's something new, that's another option.
Why don't we just put it on our next agenda to talk about communication mechanisms.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I just didn't want to forget again to mention that to everybody. Yeah. So yes, Jim, if you could put it both on the website and distribute it with your newsletter, since you're the one who has the
I'm just writing down the action items so we don't forget it.
Okay.
for next meeting.
Before we leave that point, though, I think that sends out the message to our school contacts, which are predominantly parents. Not is one of our target audiences, but the message, I think, is also important to be received by staff because it's a statement of support for them. What's that, Jim?
That email I sent on Friday goes to all staff, students, and parents and community members who have signed up.
Okay, so I guess the question in my mind, then, I appreciate the staff point, is whether or not there is something we want to do for the broader community. And I'm not sure what mechanisms we have for that, for people who haven't signed up for Jim's thing, whether we want to, is the local paper still coming out? I think it would be worthwhile really putting that out wherever we can.
Yep.
There is a local paper that folks get. I just got mine a week
Facebook
ago. And Jim, do you still write for that?
No, it's different. Yeah. So
what publication?
So a couple things.
There is an opportunity for that possibly if they'll take it. And we do have a couple of underutilized social media accounts, so I'm happy to post it on those if that's what the committee would like. And if we're even looking for something broader, I guess we could talk to WACA about.
And certainly Michael can put it out.
I was gonna say, doesn't Michael Herbert sometimes put out stuff?
He does. He put one out yesterday, but he certainly would be willing to do it. There's no doubt.
That sounds great.
Laurie, I think if you want to put, it's Facebook and Twitter you were referencing, right? Yes, I think it's let's put it there too, just so it's people know we're thinking about it and we're making a statement. So
okay. And Jim, if you could pass it along to Michael, that would
that would be
great.
Laurie,
I will.
Well, if Cynthia Whitty, it's the local town pages, and I know that if you get things into her by the 15th of the month, she can get them in for the next month. So if you got it in by the 15th of this month, she could have it in because the paper only comes out once a month. And I'd be happy to send you her contact info.
I have it. So
and I have her contact information because I've been communicating with her recently. So committee, are you okay with me forwarding this to Cynthia Whitty?
Anyone and everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Good.
We just ratified it at a public meeting, so no
problem.
We're good.
Excellent.
Thanks, Laurie. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. I know this is a committee that's committed to doing the right thing. So thank you for that. And another statement is coming onto your screen, this one about funding related to the COVID-19 funding from the state to help us address all of the social distancing supplies and other costs related to the pandemic that we either have incurred or are going to incur. And this is a statement that school committees around the state are starting to adopt. And I wanted you all to have the opportunity to weigh in on whether or not as a committee you wanted to participate in that. So there's the resolution. Hopefully you've all had a chance. I sent it around earlier today as well. Does anybody have any concerns about that?
No, I think we absolutely have to say it. And the federal government too. I think Senator Spilka sent us something too.
Yeah, there's another one that will probably go on a later agenda because that just came to me about an hour ago.
Right.
So I think we need some time to digest that one, but absolutely we need to advocate. I mean, we're always advocating and we don't always get what we ask for, but I think it's important that we try.
Yeah. I think everybody is in the same boat. How are we going to pay for everything? And how are we going to do this? So.
Well, does anybody have concerns about doing it, number one?
Yes. I don't have concerns about it. The thing I keep staring at on the screen is the language on it that says there can be no unfunded mandates for COVID-19. And, that's a little clumsy in the sense that what we're really talking about is unfunded mandates for consequences of, right? I mean, it's not talking about funding the disease, but I also think that there's, that's kind of a probably an obvious statement of what was intended here. And I think given, other school districts are passing the same thing, we're trying to send a consistent message to elected leadership. I'm not sure I want to get hung up on that, to be perfectly blunt. Yeah. So I'm certainly supportive of the concept of it. It's a matter of whether we want to take the time to tweak language that really, I don't know, is necessary, but that's my opinion.
I immediately went to that too, Mark. And I also went to, well, what does that mean really? Are we going to say, no, we're not going to do the appropriate things if you don't,
right.
Which obviously we
will.
Not going to say we're not going to do the right things there. I'm obviously fine with it. I know the practicality of it is, hey, listen, this only it works if there's some stash of money sitting there that they can reach into that isn't like, okay, yeah, we're going to give you this money for these COVID related expenses, but we're not going to, everybody just gets your bare minimum Chapter 70 increase next year. So, until we get a bigger slice of the upper pie, at the federal level, it's tough for them to do stuff. I understand that, but I think it's important to say that this is important, and that I think that helps them advocate up the chain. I'm fully in support of it. Understanding that it is just kind of echoing what everyone's saying, and hopefully it doesn't fall on deaf ears. So.
I'm fully supportive of this one as well.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I move that. You got it, Paul?
Nope.
I move that we pass the, what are we calling this? The state funding, COVID-19 state funding resolution as presented.
All right. I'll second.
And then all in favor, Aaron Williams?
Just a quick question.
What are you saying, Paul?
Yes.
Are we approving it, or are we authorizing Laurie to sign it for us? Looks like it's.
Yeah, it has to be edited, obviously.
It has to be all our names on there too, or. Okay.
I think usually the chair can sign on behalf of the committee. Otherwise, this will be held up for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with the motion. I'm just asking about that.
Okay, and Kathy seconded, and Aaron Williams?
Aye.
Bill Kendall?
Aye.
Mark Terry?
Aye.
Kathy Bates?
Aye.
And aye for me, so thank you for that. And then the superintendent evaluation process, we are here at that time of year. Everything just feels so off right now. We should be in school and having the final days, and then having our town election, and there are things that normally happen around this time of year, and the superintendent evaluation is one of them. So we do need to talk about the process for that. Jim has forwarded the document, and I think there was some talk anyway with me and Mark and Jim in agenda planning that we would move forward with what we had agreed to as a committee, adopting this tool and sticking to the same goals that we gave to Jim, even though we have shifted since March on to pretty much just COVID. And we certainly, I would imagine that all of us will be commenting on his leadership during this time in our somewhere in there. But using this tool is also what we signed on to do. So that would be the next step, and it would be due, probably at the next meeting in a couple of weeks. Jim, did you have anything you wanted to say about it?
Nope.
Does anybody have any concerns about that process, or questions, or thinking that something different should happen? You're all good?
All good.
Okay, so what I will ask then is for everyone to just do what we've done every other year, review Jim's goals, give him a rating, go through the rubric, and most importantly, please write me a statement. There are places to write comments on the form, I think, anyway, but certainly in light of this unique moment that we're in, I think it's in order that we all address this somehow in our comments if you feel so moved. So please get that to me before, at least a couple of days before the next meeting, so I have time to put together a statement from the whole committee. And if for some reason you need more time, just let me know enough in advance so that I can make plan B. So let's try to at the meeting, not the one on Friday, but 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
If we're having one, and we're talking about that as well. Yeah, let's plan to have that wrapped up by then. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. And moving into our schedule for meetings, you all know that we usually break around this time for the summer, and we might usually meet once, and sometimes that's not until August during the summer for a retreat. I think last year we met twice because we had a lot to discuss. But in light of the ever-changing information that's coming our way and decisions that are probably going to need to be made and understood throughout the summer, and also the need, I think, to keep families informed if they're watching any of this. And I know Jim's doing a good job with his newsletter. But what are your thoughts about the frequency with which we should come on here and have a meeting, as well as whether or not we should have a retreat and what that looks like to you? Paul?
Personally, I would be in favor of keeping our cadence going of the 2 meetings a month. I think we have plenty of things going on. You know, whether it be a budget that is completely up in the air and we're not going to have information for another month. You know, so there's plenty to talk about. You know, and if they're short meetings or we cancel them, then that's fine. But I think this is a time where we have plenty to talk about, especially as things evolve and we formulate what September is going to look like. So I'd be fine with that, but I'm not saying I wouldn't be fine with something outside.
And while you're on, while your face is talking on Zoom, what are your thoughts about getting together for some kind of social distance, deeper dive retreat? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think they're always valuable. So, and I think in general, all of our, aside from the time we were in the really small room over there, we've gotten together physically. We've been socially distant, I think, in the room. So I don't see, especially depending on when it's happened, I don't see us not being able to do something similar.
Yeah, and it may not be at an outside place for a number of reasons. They may not be allowing groups, and we may, you know, choose to do something in one of the buildings if we feel more comfortable. But in any event, I care more right now about whether people want to do it, and we can figure out the details a little bit later. So what are everybody else's thoughts on that?
Well, I do. I mean, if we are able, it's always valuable when we can get together face to face and have that retreat. So if we could do that, I think that would be very valuable.
And what are your feelings about meeting throughout the summer, Kathy?
Oh, I think that's a good idea. I mean, it's easy enough on the Zoom because you can be anywhere. So, yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. Like, I mean, maybe we could just set it up every 2 weeks or whatever. And then if we don't need it, we just cancel it, or it's a short meeting, just to check in. But maybe, I bet a lot of people are wondering what is the fall going to look like. So maybe it would be valuable to the public to know that we're meeting and talking about it. So.
That's my thought exactly, where there's so many moving pieces between the budget, the opening, how we're handling things. I think it's actually a necessity for us to meet every 2 weeks. I'm also in favor of an in-person event because we've always had success with those, but I am not in favor of anything where we are expending budget money towards it. So I would prefer not to be at the Warren Center and either use school facilities, or I have a covered patio that has free-flowing air, but can socially distance about 7 people. So I'm happy to also offer up that, or my driveway where you can get more. But I think us meeting is critical, and I think us meeting on a regular basis as things change is also critical. The only thing for me is I will likely be having surgery towards the end of the summer, and so there may be 1 or 2 meetings that I miss because of that.
Okay, thank you, Erin. And Mark?
Yeah, I'm very much open to it. It seems to me that the idea of continuing with scheduled meetings, I agree with Kathy that the idea that, we can really be anywhere. We often don't do this because we can't get a quorum together, and school business isn't going on in the same way. But this year that doesn't seem to be the case. And if any of us is traveling, take your phone. I mean, we take it anyway, and you can participate remotely in the same way we are today. So I think meeting on a regular twice a month schedule, and then looking for a time, some point in July, I suppose. But whenever people are available to do, the deeper dive meeting, I think makes a lot of sense too. So,
okay, and last but not least, Jim, since you would have to participate, are you on board with all of that?
I work for you.
Jim's house.
Yeah. Can you make that happen? Or again, I'm totally fine with if we get to an agenda that's very light and things can be moved on to another agenda. We don't have to tie anybody up.
We're all set.
All right. So you understand what we're doing moving forward. We'll set up the meetings. We'll pick a retreat date.
Yep. It will be the similar offset of the select board, just so you know. So I'll confirm with Michael their schedule. So because it's the every other Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I don't know if they made any adjustments for theirs in the summer. So I just want to make sure. So.
Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
And Laurie, anytime we do have a lighter agenda, I mean, there's so much going on right now, development-wise, with the building
project. Yeah.
We could certainly, supply some additional information about what's going on there to, in a forum like this that is televised and things like that. That might be a good use of one or two of the meetings as well.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. It sounds like we have a plan for that moving forward. And then where is our assistant superintendent? Are you still here, or did he jump off?
He'll be back in a moment.
Okay. So you want to move to the next thing, and then we'll go.
Want me to read my the warrants?
Yes, please, Kathy.
Okay. Let me just call up that blurb. There it is. Okay. Between April 29th, 2020 and June 5th, 2020, I, Kathleen Bates, authorized by my signature payables in the amount of $1,092,860.27. This includes general fund expenses of $613,965.35, revolving expenses of $422,091.31, grant expenses of $13,409.36, and capital expenses of $43,394.25. Finally, I authorized payroll in the amount of $3,387,750.01.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any gifts and donations?
We do. We have an anonymous for $100 for helping our own fund, and $500 from Middlesex Savings Bank for the AHS student activities for a total of $600.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the gifts and donations?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aaron, Kathy?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And aye for me. Thank you. And member updates. Does anyone, Paul, do you want to give a brief building committee update?
Sure. So we actually had a building committee last night. So we're still awaiting the formal feedback from our PSR, our proposed schematic report submission that was submitted at the beginning of May. We expect that either tomorrow or the beginning of next week sometime maybe from the MSBA, and we expect them to vote on our project at their next board meeting, which I believe is the 24th, June, or 26th. I can't remember which day it is. And the project team has been working with Mike and Claudia, speaking with different educators and groups within the building around design and adjacencies and things like that, to try to both communicate what is in the current plans from a safety perspective to those groups, but also get their feedback on how they'll use it, how meaningful it is to adjacent to other spaces and things like that. We had a good dialogue last night on some of those configurations, if you do see anything going on over at Mendez, last night we approved a proposal for a test well. That's a geothermal well, so that's drilling a test well, and it's going to be on a field just up the hill from the school. They're going to drill one hole or one well, I should say, 600 feet down, and then be able to do some analytics on what the capacity and efficiency of that well is, so they can continue to work on geothermal design of the well field and things like that. So if you see things going on over there, we have to move pretty quickly, because we're looking for getting things to cost estimators in July, and this system needs to be designed and sized and everything by then. So things are going to be moving rather quickly to get that information in the hands of the engineers to do that. So I don't know, Jim or Mike and Claudia, you have any other anything you want to add to the things that have been going on? I know you've been more involved in some of those educational design meetings that the project team's been hosting. You're
muted, Jim.
Maybe Mike and Claudia can just speak to the process that's been undergoing with your staff at the building. I think it's really important for the school committee to hear that.
Sure. So we've had I think at this point we've had 2 really productive meetings. The first was with our PE teachers, our wellness teacher, and our music teacher, and it was really centered on the placement of the different buildings and the adjacencies of the classrooms, and how they would work together to make sure we're meeting the needs of all of our students, but also to make sure there's some continuity in the building, in the way it's been designed, to allow for a community wing as opposed to just the pure academic wing. And the next meeting was a great meeting with Lisa Lamphere, our library media specialist, and Carolyn Bro was invited to that meeting as well for technology, and Colleen Glynn was with us as well for art. Correct me if I'm wrong about that combination, Mrs. Bennett, but I believe that's who was there. And we were able to have some really good discussion about what our art space would look like, and what our library media space was going to look like, and how those 2 spaces could then work collaboratively with our technology space. And it's just going to be a really interesting building, because everyone is going to be able to work so closely together, and they're designing it to make that possible and feasible. And they're really just great at listening to what we have to say, even so far as to listen to when we suggested that one of our special education rooms be moved from a top floor to the lower level, so it could be closer to the outside classroom space and a garden, so those students could benefit from working in the garden and from being in charge of the garden, which would really add to their education and add to the ability for our special education teacher to involve them with such a wonderful project. So just really been great. Our next meeting is with some of our maintenance folks and our custodial staff, centered around that, and we look forward to having that one on Tuesday of next week.
Thanks, Mike. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? Any member updates?
I'll just, if I can, Laurie.
Go ahead. Sure.
Thanks, Kelly. I just wanted to do a shout out to Kelly and all the folks that were involved in planning the graduation parade. I thought that was phenomenal. I didn't know what to expect out of it. I didn't know how many kids would participate in it. Had no advance warning, and I was watching at the middle school, and then all these cops on motorcycles come in with the fire trucks behind them and the school bus, and I thought it was great. And I happened to talked to some friends later in the day, and they're all like, "That was awesome. We should do that every year." So, it's up to Kelly, but you know, you might have to figure out how to empty the parking lot after a real graduation ceremony and have everybody drive around town next year. So congratulations, Kelly. I thought that went really well.
Thanks, Mark. It was a lot of fun and definitely a community pulling together to make it happen.
Yeah.
It was great. Kathy, did you want to say something?
Well, I wanted to add to that also because I was in the parade, and so it was so fun. That's what I wanted to add tonight, that it was such a blast. Our whole family had a blast. Ben's older brothers were in the car. It was so much fun. And I think every class is going to want a parade after this. So yeah, and thank you, Kelly, and everybody that made that happen. It really made it a special day. So I wanted to.
We like putting them on the buses and transporting them to the schools. It's a little more, it's simpler.
And a little safer, probably.
Safer.
There were a lot of kids in some of those cars, but.
You can do that too, Jim.
But I wanted to just chime in a little bit too with Kelly, and I've told her this personally. I went up last week as she was doing, was about 35 kids, Kel and Aaron, about 35 kids opted to come into the school, socially distancing, but do a graduation, receive their diploma, walk across the stage. And what was so heartfelt was the individualized comments that were made by Kelly and to each kid. And you can see how much it meant to them to be able to have this experience, because they're not going to be, they won't be there for the next round of the graduation ceremony in August, but it was amazing. And I think people are going to look back on it and say, gosh, I wish we had done that. I really do. It was so personalized and so cool. And so thank you. It's when I talk about the commissioner sending something out at 8:00 at night, that's what he did to Kelly on a Friday, and saying, hey, switch your graduation again. And there were probably 20 iterations, and she needs to take that downtime at some point. So, but great stuff.
Received a lot of emails saying I wish we had just handed out the diplomas on Sunday.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Right. Stand on the corner with them as they drive by.
There you go.
Right.
And add some of the nice comments, and then you've got a graduation. And I did tell Kelly this personally, but I had a family friend that was part of that smaller cohort of 30 some kids that graduated, and had the same feedback that, wow, she said personal things about me, and it meant a lot, and it got back to me, and I let her know. So I want the whole community to know that I know that you did everything you could, Kelly, to make it special for people under the circumstances, which have not been very good for anybody. But thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question, Kelly? Do you know how many people participated in the parade? How many kids?
I don't, because we did ask them to, tell us they were coming just so we could give the police a ballpark. And we had 150 registered. It seemed like there were more. So we certainly, had a couple sets of twins that were riding together. So yeah, it's hard to, at least 150.
That's great.
Well, and I wanted to thank the town residents too for coming out. You could tell some people didn't have kids, and they were just out there supporting our seniors. And then there were families with little kids watching. So it was so nice to have the community out there. So thank you to the community.
Yeah, I think, it was a perfect example of everybody coming together under some difficult circumstances. It was a fabulous day. And I drove around a little too, not in the parade, but just to see what was out there and to see people in the different neighborhoods with balloons and cheering. It was really fabulous. So great job. I was hoping to chat with Paul Vieira as I'm sure my colleagues were as well, because I'm not sure when we're going to see him again. Hopefully at the next meeting. He was going to try to get back here. He had to disappear for a little while. But it looks like he's not back. So, Jim, will we see
Yes.
him? Okay.
He'll be at the next meeting. Yep.
The next meeting on Friday or
24th.
The end of the month. Okay. So we will look forward to talking with Paul at that end of the month meeting. So hopefully you all can make it. And we have a chance to say goodbye to him because he's in the process of accepting another position as a superintendent. So that's all I've got for tonight. Does anybody else have anything to add to the member updates or anything to add to action items before we sign off? I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Erin?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Yeah, Kathy?
Aye.
Aye for me. So good night, everybody.
All right,
and
good
thank
night.
you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
Laurie.
Good night.